Welcome back to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are here with our guests for today. And Rebecca, why don't you tell us a little bit about Renee?
I'd love to tell you about Renee. So Renee is the Chief Franchise Officer for Modern Restaurant Concepts. It's a national multi-brand restaurant platform focused on better for you concepts. Currently, the portfolio includes 2 health-forward, fast casual brands, Modern Market Eatery and, of course, Lemonade Seasonal Cafeteria. So Renee is also the co-founder and former Chief Marketing Officer at Doc Popcorn, the world's largest franchise retailer of popcorn. She co-led the sale of the brand to Dippin' Dots in 2014, and then she stayed on as a member of Dippin' Dots senior leadership team until 2018. So as a brand builder and as a disruptor, Renee is passionate about using her unique ability to connect different unrelated ideas, concepts, and people to turn brand aspirations into reality. She enjoys advising or investing in emerging franchisors and suppliers serving our franchise community. So Renee, of course, has received many awards, including the Enterprise Woman of the Year Award from Enterprise Woman magazine, and she was nominated as Outstanding Woman Leader in Business by the Denver Business Journal. And then many of you know her as a member of the Women in Franchising Committee at the IFA. So welcome, Renee. We are so excited to have you.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I feel so honored.
Yeah, we hit pay dirt when we got you to agree to come on the shows.
You're so sweet.
Oh, is that a term people still use? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, some of us of a certain age remember what that means.
Yeah, and I'm of that age, obviously. So obviously we have so many wonderful questions for you because you have such a fascinating backdrop in your life. But I'm wondering if we could start get personal here, because you've always been kind of spunky and feisty and fiery and kind of a leader in this small little package. What was kind of your first experience? You know, I think you told me about a basketball situation where this spunky, fiery person came out. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I was growing up, I was always athletic. I'm still athletic. I've had many lives as an athlete, but my first one was as a basketball player. And when I tell people that, they kind of chuckle because I'm 5'2" and pretty diminutive, right? So I'm tiny but mighty, and so I just remember, you know, feeling like I'm not enough, right? It starts early. I'm too little, I'm too this, I'm too that. But, you know, very, very early on, I learned that, you know, hard work and focus can get you pretty much anything. And I happen to have some of the athletic talent, but I really loved playing. And so I practiced a ton and just was always on the basketball court. And by the time I was in high school, I was on the 3 teams. I was on the freshman team, the JV team, and the varsity team.
Oh my goodness.
But in middle school, there was a situation where we were at a game, or we were a tournament, and I had the chicken pox and I couldn't play in the final game. But I worked really hard and I was a big part of getting us there. And so my mom went to the game and I had to stay home. I would have went if they let me, but obviously couldn't go. And they did an MVP award at the end of the game. And I was really surprised. My mother came home and she said, you know, you won't believe who got MVP of the tournament. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, there's like 3 people I can think of because our team was pretty amazing. And she's like, you got MVP. You weren't even there in the final, but you got MVP because of, and it's like one of the only times that they had given out an MVP award and the person who won it wasn't in the final game. So And I was like, oh, did they feel sorry for me because I had the chicken pox? And you know, and I realized that, you know what, like, you know, this is my sport. I worked really hard, and you know, I wasn't the one who scored the most points. I wasn't the tallest on the team, but I was the point guard. I'm the one who passes the ball, tells people where to be on the court, what plays to call. And so that was, you know, that was kind of my first real, like, you know, leadership experience, like realizing that, oh, you know, this is, you know, you look back now and you're like, wow, that was my first real leadership experience, is being part of a team, and not just being a leader, but being a team player and letting others shine. I didn't care if I scored. If I had a great pass and somebody else scored, I was good with that.
That's an excellent example of leadership right there, where you basically were forwarding the game, not by drawing attention to yourself, but calling the plays and highlighting those that were talented in particular areas. So that the focus was on the outcome, which is let's have fun, let's play as a team, let's win. That was the focus. And then your job was to sort of orchestrate it. It's, you know, I see like a symphony leader, a conductor of sorts right there as a point guard on the field, on the court rather.
And you grow into that. I think sometimes, you know, as women, we talk a lot about, you know, am I good enough? Am I worthy? You know, am I in the right room? You know, and what you realize is that you know, I think life is more exciting when you reach a little. You know, I think most leaders and people who are striving to be leaders are not comfortable all the time. You have to reach, you have to be, like, it's like brand aspiration. When you start a new company, you're not there yet, but you're not going to have a brand aspiration that's like, oh, maybe I'm going to be the largest popcorn company in the world. It's like, you know, we strive to create smiles, and we're going to do that every day. And at Modern Market, we're about, you know, making sure that there's accessible, affordable, convenient, scratch-made food, and we want that to be everywhere. And you have to aspire to where you want to go, and, you know, point the beacon in the direction and head that way.
Indeed.
Well, and what do you think, when we talked before, you talked about little package, big dream, a whole lot of work, which I think you talked about it in the reference to basketball. But in terms of how you've taken that into your professional life, how do you think that little quote applies? Because I think that, who would think that a 5'2" small little girl would think that she could play basketball and do it well? And so I think there's something inside of people sometimes who does that. I have one of my children always does things that make her uncomfortable, always. Like, her best quality is that she pushes herself outside of her comfort zones. And all of my kids don't have that same quality. And so the ones that don't, I try to inspire that feeling, like, try it anyway, push yourself. So tell us about how that has translated in other areas of your life.
Well, certainly, you know, from a business standpoint, you know, I think I didn't, when I met my husband, and he was always an entrepreneur, I was on a career track. I worked for Fortune 500s, and then I moved over to the agency side and did consulting, and all in marketing and all in branding. But when I met my husband, and he had the idea for Doc Popcorn, you know, it's like a big leap, right? You're stepping out of your job and your paycheck, and to move over to the dark side and go see if you can go make a dream happen. And if you told me I was going to be the popcorn queen, you know, when I was growing up, like, I want to be the popcorn queen, you know, that's not what I would have thought about. But it's about having the confidence, it's all what we hear all the time: taking the leap, having the confidence. And we tell our kids all the time, and I have to tell myself all the time, you know, I can do it. You know, now it's like, you're gonna rock this, I got it. But we had the I can do it monster for the kids when they were growing up, when they were like, oh, you know, I can't do it, or, you know, this is too hard. I'm like, no, the I can do it monster is watching you, like, you can do this. And And you have to bring that to yourself. You forget.
Yeah.
You know, you're so busy encouraging others. You have to, encourage yourself too.
Yeah. I liked how you distinguished though that confidence is confidence in self. Building a business, we don't know for sure if it's going to be crazy successful like Duck Popcorn was, but you had confidence in your own abilities and confidence in one another as you built this with your husband. And that confidence, I wonder, Elizabeth and I have pondered this a couple of times. If women tend to not have it in as large a dose as a man might have, would you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm sorry. So in terms of the dose of
self-confidence, this belief in self that I can do something, do you think there's any difference between the way a woman feels self-confidence or a man in that same kind of leadership role or as an entrepreneur? Is it different? Is it something that we can develop as an example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of it is positive self-talk. You have to have positive self-talk, because I think, and women more so, I dare say, we have a lot in our brain. It's like there's always something going on. Like there's I can do it. And it's like, oh, but you're really not qualified. Why are you qualified? Why are you here? Why did they pick you?
Yeah.
And and there's always that kind of voice in my head. I'll speak for myself. You can look at somebody's bio, right? Like, how many times do you read someone's bio and you're just like, wow, that person's amazing.
They're so impressive.
But if you talk to that person, they're just another person like you, and they too have the butterflies and are always, there's always a voice. And so you have to quiet the voice, and you have to put in the positive, glasses half full voice that enables you to go out and just, fake it till you make it if you have to, just go out there and do it. And I think that that's harder for women. And when we do it, we're arrogant and stuck up.
Yeah. Perceived as arrogant and stuck up. Yeah. That's so funny. And I do think we talk a lot. Go ahead. I just say we do talk a lot to ourselves.
Yeah.
What's that?
We do talk to ourselves.
We do. And my sister. Yeah. But my sister read a study the other day that said, she goes, can you believe this? I read a study that said men can actually sit there and think about nothing. Like they can actually have a blank space in their brain. And she's like, if only I could do that. So I don't think I think the self-talk that they're missing is the self-criticism that we tend to put on ourselves, because we are trying to prove ourselves or improve our confidence or make sure that we're doing it right. And I don't even think it's self-criticism necessarily in a negative way, but it's how could we do this better? How could we do this more? What is what is our strategy? What is our path? Right. There's always something going on in there.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, but it's true. I think it also, because of that self-talk or self-doubt or confidence issue that we have, it is what causes us to learn more, strive harder, work to overcome that, which then increases our skills and our talents, and over time allows us to perform even better. So.
Yeah, no, there's a quote, Marianne Williamson, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of, who are you to be, dazzling and talented? But the answer is, who are you not to be? Like, don't make yourself small to make other people feel comfortable. You have to be comfortable in yourself and to shine.
Yeah.
I so agree. So shifting gears a little bit, you talk about Doc Popcorn, and then you're in Modern Markets now. And when we talked to you before, you talked about struggling with the what's next after Doc Popcorn, which sort of leads from where we've been talking to where we want to go next in terms of how do you make that decision? How do you find that space? What drew you to Modern Markets in the first place?
Yeah, so Modern Market Eatery, like Doc Popcorn in a much grander way. I mean, Doc Popcorn was created to be a natural snack brand. It was in the early 2000s where you went to a mall or a stadium and you couldn't find anything to eat that was somewhat on a better for you, healthier scale, but still gave you the satisfaction, the smiles of having eaten something delicious. And so that was our mantra. And we did it because, you know, we knew that we wanted something good to eat. And so fast forward, I was, you know, really, you know, I'm an athlete and I love food and I'm a foodie. And I met the founder of Modern Market. I just knew him through, we live in Boulder. He's an athlete as well. And we just happened to be on some hikes and biking and skiing opportunities together. And I've watched the brand grow up, you know, for the last, you know, dozen years here in Boulder and beyond. And when I heard that he wanted to start franchising, I thought, wow, you know, what an amazing, to the point of when purpose and passion collide for me personally. It's a brand that's looking to put, you know, taking finer scratch made cooking techniques and making them so that they can be repeatable, consistent, and affordable, and making it easy for the operator and the guest to nourish their lives and their communities and eat well. And that is something that I'm super passionate about. It starts at home here. And if I could do that every day and help be part of bringing a brand like that beyond the markets that we're already in, and then help a franchisee who wants to expand into a healthier concept. I mean, that's just a win-win all around. And I was really excited because the food's amazing and it's a go-to, and it had been a go-to for me already when I couldn't cook the scratch meal at home. It's like, you know, actually one of our taglines, you know, in stores, like, serve it as if you cooked it.
Yeah.
It's like, I can serve
That's
this at my
great.
table to my kids and feel really good about it. So that's kind of that passion and purpose for me. It just clicked.
Yeah. So I do like how the two come together, plus all your skills and talents and experiences all came together here. The foodie in you and your passion for healthy eating and preparing foods for your family, and here's Modern Market providing these incredible foods for our local markets, right?
Right.
So I guess the question I have for you, people are eating out more and more, and looking for healthier alternatives. But I personally, and maybe this is me, and tell me what you think about it, I really equate preparing food and giving it to my family as love. This is my way of showing love.
Absolutely. I completely hear you and agree with that. And in fact, I think one of the things I always think about is when my kids were babies, and you know, whoever, you know, is online who has kids knows this feeling. It's like, you know, from the day that they're born, it's all about, did they get enough to eat? Did they eat enough? Like, you know, they have enough, they want milk, you know, you got to get the milk. And then it's like, oh, they really only want the apricots. Like, you felt like it was such a victory if you got them to eat the peas. And it wasn't about, like, and I learned how, and this is another application to life and business in general, you know, it's not about what you get done in a day. Like, anyone can have a bad day. But, like, think of it in terms of 3 days, even 5 days, it's that week. And so how do you look at it like, well, we didn't really get it done today, but the next day you did, and the next day after that, you got a little more, and somehow it all balances out. And I feel that way today when my kids sit around the table. Like, tonight I'm making chicken parmesan. It's like one of their favorite meals. And I know that it's going to be a hit and everyone's going to eat. And then there's nights when I'm like, oh, I'm cooking the fish. And I'm like, oh, you know, got to get them to eat the fish. but it's but I really take care. I'm a scratch cooker still, but when I can't, I have somewhere like Modern Market, and I don't feel like I'm compromising as much.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I like to make my food.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Europe, in a little town in Switzerland, and food was about community, and food was about relationship and family. And the parents took great pride
Yeah.
in being able to provide fresh, healthy, tasty things, and it provided an opportunity for conversation and bonding and all of those things. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to connect, to build community, and of course to show love, that you care about someone's health and well-being.
We still, even my oldest is 14, and we eat around a table together most nights because that's where all the magic happens. Both nutrition and, what are they actually up to, and having a conversation, and to your point, bonding. So food is just, there's so much that goes into it. There's so much behind it. And it really is, it's life. I mean, for me, it's just such a big part. It's always like you eat breakfast and I'm already thinking about what's for lunch, what's for dinner. I plan out a whole week what everybody's eating. So
That's so funny. Well, it is, and it's beyond the nutrition, it's the community. And when our 5 kids were all home, we would try really hard, but with everybody playing a different sport and being in a different activity, sometimes it was hard. So those moments where we had all 7 of us together were really, and that's actually where I got the rose and thorns that Rebecca and I do at the start of the show. Is we used to do that with our kids, because when they were in the teenagey, I don't want to talk years, they had to tell us one rose and one thorn. And then we got a lot of questions that prompted more conversation, and then it goes out socially too into the world in terms of, I tell my kids, everybody in your life should look exactly like you. And so diversify your table, invite someone to dinner who's different from you so that you can learn something. So I think that there's so much to it. It is nutrition, but it's also that nourishing the relationships that you have or that you want in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. So it's interesting, because my perception of you, Renee, is that you are not just success driven, because you tend to go after something, all in wholeheartedly, but you're also a very disciplined person, both with your as an athlete, and then with your nutrition and your health. And so talk to us about this disciplined side of you. Have you always been disciplined? Was it something you had to learn? Do you have any advice for those of us that are less so?
I think it's that nurture nature discussion. And I do think some people are just born with it. Like you can just tell when it's like, that didn't come from me, like whatever that is, right? Says, that person's driven. But I do believe that you can train yourself to be driven. And, there's a book, it's called The Way of the Warrior Kid. So again, moms, any age. And it's by a Navy SEAL. His name's Jocko Willink, I think, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And the short story is that it's about a wimpy kid who's like the nephew of this Navy SEAL, and he can't do pull-ups, he can't do math, he complains all the time, he's not a sports kid. And his uncle's like, well, what do you mean you're not those things? You can be those things. What do you do to be those things? Have you practiced? So there was this whole thing about, well, I just want to do what I want to do. And this notion of freedom, like what's freedom? Because, well, if you tell me what to do and I have to do all these things every day, I have no freedom. And it's like, well, no, it's the opposite. And the whole moral of this book is that discipline equals freedom. So think about when you were in college, you had all the time in the world, you didn't think you did, but you did. I remember going to Thailand with we didn't have, phones or, maps or anything. And it was like, I'm just going to wing it. Right. And you could do that and it's okay. But today, if you want your 1 week vacation or your 2-minute vacation, whatever you can actually do. You will miss so much if you don't have an agenda of some sort, right? If you wing it, some of it can be great and spontaneous, and a lot comes out of that, but you need to have a goal. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to manage by some level of objective, and how are you going to get there? And so I just think that's you must have discipline, and you must have something you're achieving, even if it takes little tiny steps to get there. It's just break it down.
Break it down.
Small steps.
Yeah. Well, and I think recognizing in the steps along the way your small successes is an important thing. And when my children, or even for me, if I get down in the dumps, like I've not accomplished the things that I want to accomplish, I have the 6-month rule. I look back 6 months ago, am I better off now than I was then? And it's almost always yes. It may be not as dramatic as you want it to be, but usually 6 months out, behind you, you're in better shape than you were. So then you can think, okay, I'm not the utter failure that I feel like right this second, So in terms of recognizing those small successes, how do you incorporate that kind of thing into your life?
Yeah, so it's funny. I haven't done it in a while, and it's reminding me that I need to do it myself, as I'm going to tell everybody else what I think is an amazing way to achieve this. So I used to have a jar on my desk, and it's like the celebration jar. And so, how you just you have a bad day, or maybe you feel like you just didn't get enough done. And I think it's hard if you have a massive to-do list, and then you just look at your massive to-do list, and you're like, oh, like I'm just never going to get there. And, the checklist is nice, but there's something really visceral about writing it down. So it might have been on your task list. Then you take it off, you write it on a piece of paper, crumple it up, and put it in the jar, and make that bowl as big as you want or as small as you want. The idea is that it gets filled by the week, and take a moment to celebrate those moments that you actually did have achievements. So you go into the jar, you dump it out. It's like, wow, look at all this stuff, and then you start opening, and you're like, wow, I did get that done this week. And I just really think that some of us just need, like with my kids, it was cotton balls when they were little. Like they filled the cotton, like when they did a good deed, we put cotton balls in the jar. And at the end, when it was full, they got something special. And so I think that we all deserve something special, but we're always thinking like the glass is half full, and we didn't get it done. Because particularly with women, I feel like we always feel like we're not ever getting enough done, because to your point about men being able to have a blank space in their head, research also shows that we are multitaskers. We cannot compartmentalize. And I will just speak for myself. I know that we all kind of have traits on both sides of the feminine and masculine, but I cannot compartmentalize. My life is completely blended.
Yeah, it's like this.
And there's no balance. It's a pendulum. And I truly believe that. Like if you look for balance, you're going to be miserable. You just have to know that one day it's going to swing this way, and to the point of getting the baby to eat the food over 3 to 5 days, it balances out as a time frame, not like, in a day or, across, life. So
yeah, I've got a kid who's very, very concerned about work-life balance. He's actually dating one of my children. And I said, there's no such thing as balance. Get that out of your mind. It's about priorities to me. If your children know that you're going to be there for the important things, if they know that you're going to show up, you can work a 12-hour day and not be out of balance necessarily, because the next day you're going to a soccer game or a basketball game. So I think the word throws us off. Like everybody strives for this perfect balance. And to me, it's just having the people in your life know that they're an important priority. And when push comes to shove, you're going to be there. I mean, that's kind of how I've tried to overcome that whole balance thing, because I've never actually felt that I had any. Yeah. So I've reframed it.
The visual. Good for you. I like the visual you gave, Renee, of the pendulum. Because some of that is also kind of stage of life, right? When you're building an empire, you're building a business, that requires a whole lot of energy and focus. And when you're raising children, that requires a lot of focus. So I think a lot of it is stage of life. And at some point there is a pendulum that just comes back to center, whether we call that balance or whatever we call it. So what I find interesting about you is you're very outcome oriented. I think you mentioned.
I'm an achiever. Like on all your profiles, Rebecca, I'm an achiever.
You're an achiever, but the extra thing that's kind of cool about that is your big picture end result kind of individual, but you're also tactical, meaning you can take that big picture and break it down into smaller components, which becomes your to-do list or the process that you use. Not everybody can do that. They have aspirations and they have great old hairy bodacious goals, but they're not able to go, okay, here's where I'm going and here are the 17 steps for me to get there, and today I'm going to be disciplined to knock one of those out, or however it is. So this is a very unique talent that you have. And for those that don't possess that, would you recommend lists or accountability groups, or what would you recommend for those that are not able to go big picture and then tactical like you are able to do?
Yeah, there's a management style that's, managing by objectives or managing by goals. There's all kinds of words for it today. But, the idea is that, depending on how far you want to go out, I mean, people still do the 5-year goal plan. I can go out that far, but I know that things change so rapidly, and you can always go back and revisit them. But, if you can put out that 5-year goal, it's awesome. But then I think for people that have a hard time breaking it down, that feels really big. So even if you can just go for a year and then break it down by quarter and then by month. And so, one of the disciplines, talks about having your rocks. It's like, these are my rocks for the month. And, you have them for the quarter, and then you break them down by month. And then you just check them off. And you know what? It's okay to be, somewhat audacious and somewhat, forward thinking. You know what? I might not achieve it. I need things that I can achieve, and I need my stretch ones, right? So there's always something that maybe I have to move into the next month because there's a million reasons why it didn't get done. And I don't beat myself up if I don't get every single thing done, because if I make it too easy, then I'm not moving the ball, pushing the rock as we, up the hill as fast as I want it to. So, and actually at Modern Market, the entire team, the entire company does this type of effort. So that's how we all move in the same direction. Like, we want to have 200 locations, and there's all kinds of ways to get there. There's corporate locations, there's the new franchising program that'll be part of that, there's licensing with airports and universities. But then you got to break all that down, and every single person has a role to play towards that big objective. And so, that's how we do it. That's how I always did it.
Great advice. So it's having a very clear objective, making realistic calendars. In this case, you're suggesting a year. Break that into quarters and break it down into months, and then break it down into weeks. And then to exercise a certain discipline within that, and then also rewarding ourselves for accomplishing even some of the smaller goals, that cotton balls kind of idea or the thing.
But I need that, and everyone needs that. Like, I could not have that discipline without it, because I am generally more bigger picture focused, and I have a lot of things going on all the time. So I have to be able to look at that and be like, oh, that thing that I just tried to go work on just because it looked more interesting, or it was the shiny new penny for the week, that's not on the list. And if it's not on the list, you have to recognize pretty quickly it's not on the list.
Right.
That's not going to get to the goal for this month. So that has to go away.
Yeah, that's
All
great
right.
advice. Great. Well, Renee, we are winding down our time here, but we want you to tell everyone how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in Modern Market and want to reach out.
Pretty simple. Renee at modernmarket.com is my email, and you can certainly go to modernmarket.com and look up our website and our delicious food. We're very Instagrammable. I have to say our food is absolutely beautiful. It is delicious. And we have franchising information there, and how you can order there if you're lucky enough to be in Arizona, Colorado, Texas, or a student in Notre Dame, or flying through DIA at Denver International Airport.
Nice.
You can order online and get everything you need, and we meet our guests wherever they are.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Renee. We really enjoyed it. This has been a great conversation about so many things in terms of successful business and successful life. So we really appreciate you coming on Passion and Purpose with us today.
It was so fun to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Renee.
Take care.
All right. See you soon.